Come to Satsang. Okay. Now Satsang has one purpose, and that is to discover, get to know which we are, which is the real and lasting. Now the real is always lasting, and this word lasting is very important. Everything that we try to do in life, we want it to last. Our work, friendship, marriage, even our body. We just want it to last. But where does that drive come from? See, it comes from that which is real. And that's what we're going to explore today. Everything seems real. But what is real? The real is that which makes everything possible. So, if you think, what makes it possible to think? What makes it possible to emote, to feel, to touch? Let me give you an example. I'd like you to, I'm taking a piece of paper here, and I'm going to make a circle. Okay, just a little circle. What do you see? Most people would say, I see a circle. Right? That's the first thing they see because that's what we focused on. But what makes the circle possible? The paper. And that's what we miss. Now, what is real is obvious. But it's obvious to the heart, not the mind. The mind keeps missing it. We always seek which is immediately apparent. In fact, everything that we think is real is not. It is just an appearance. But that which makes an appearance seem real, that is the reality. But reality cannot be touched, it cannot be seen, it cannot be defined, it cannot be explained, and it definitely cannot be understood by the mind. But unless we start to live from what is real, our life will not work. I get so many emails, people asking me, more or less the following words: why isn't my life working? I've meditated, I've gone to church, I have my own center. These are recent things that people are telling me. Or I have had it from a recent therapist, and he's having these problems, and he's going through what is called a spiritual desert. This is very common when you use too much male energy and not enough female energy, because the two have to integrate. You go into what is called a spiritual desert. You become dry, you become empty, you become even sad. You have all the knowledge, you've read all the books, you've done everything, but it's dry. Because you have to fall in love with what is real. But to fall in love with it, you have to allow yourself to open yourself to it, to see it. Because you cannot even experience the real. You cannot experience it as a human. Because it is not the experiencer. You see, it is experience, period. I'd like to tell you a true story that happened to me, and which might make even this a little bit clearer. In the middle of April, I started to get a lot of fevers, and a doctor happened to say it could have been blood poisoning, but whatever it was, we're still not sure. Nobody's sure. But I started to have fever, and this fever kept on growing till about 103, 104. 4, sometimes 5 a day, right? And at night. And then I would perspire, and then after that, goes for an hour or so, and then I start to shake. The body starts to shake. Then I have another fever. This went on for a month, believe it or not. And my body became so weak at one point after a month that I really felt, this is it. One morning, Friday morning, I got up and I couldn't get out of bed. And my skin was as pale as a sheet, and Sylvia said, well, what does Bhagavan want you to do? And so I said, call an ambulance. That's my first experience in hospital. So, but funny thing happened, which I want to share with you here, is that at that moment I didn't say anything to Sylvia about this, but I really felt, this is it, I'm dying. You know, I was sure I was dying. And but I became happy. I was happy, you know, and the paramedics were just beautiful people. So I entered the hospital, and I believe because of the fact that grace gave me acceptance of the situation, I experienced a shift in hospital. And you know, what I call a shift is there were doctors and nurses and patients, but nothing was happening. A lot of kerfuffle, a lot of activity, like bubbles on the surface of the water, like the clouds moving across the vastness of the sky, but nothing was happening. Everybody thinks it's important what they have to do and say, but nothing is important. And everything became unreal. So unreal. It stayed with me throughout the whole experience of the hospital, the whole week that I was there. And among this unreal, everything is an appearance, there was this, I call it a presence, like a light presence. And it was loving, very beautiful. I call it the witness enjoyer. And now, there was no Burt per se, because, you know, somebody might ask you, well, did you experience this? Well, no. Burt did not experience this. There was experience. This is what I want to emphasize today. There isn't an experiencer. You see? I guess, you know, see Burt there as another appearance lying there. But there was this total experience of everything is one. There is no creation, there is no destination, there is no purpose, there is nowhere to get to, there is no beginning or end, there is no karma, there is no reincarnation. There is this, just this. And this was so beautiful and so loving. You see? Now, when we talk about, sometimes we say, well, some people might ask, but if there is no purpose, and it was so clear, like you don't question it. If somebody would say, well, if there is no purpose, what's the point? There is no point to life, because it's eternal. It can only be a point if you're going from here to there. There is no point. You don't achieve anything, you don't attain anything, you don't accomplish anything. You just become what you have always been. This is what is real. You see? And that reality is the perfection of our being. And you'll find that everything that happens, war, atrocities, crimes, are all an invitation to understand this magnificence in one way or another. Because no matter what happens to your life and no matter what you go through, eventually you're going to become desperate. Eventually you're going to go into tremendous disappointment, and you'll stop using your mind. Because there's nowhere to go, nothing to do. There's only to be, you see? And when that happens, you surrender. You don't surrender yourself. It happens as a form of grace. It's a letting go. And then there is this force, this energy that takes over. I saw it. And